I'm Sebastian. I'm back here with my friends Russell, Doug, Joe, and my father Scott. We're on a kind of a touching subject a little bit, talking about the coronavirus and how it's been affecting local communities. Now, our friend Doug here, he's very well involved with his localized community and everything that goes on with that. He's part of the board, they make critical decisions. And with everything being shut down, things just aren't going the way how they used to, and things are getting a lot harder. So, Doug, what would you say is one of the toughest parts about being in the situation that you're in?
Well, I'm involved in quite a bit of stuff in my local community. The big thing I've noticed of all the things I'm involved in is the people who are suddenly hurting. There's when you're involved in something that involves donations or helping people and assisting people with different things, you see people typically from a specific range, although it's everybody at one point or another needs help. During this, you might see someone come in who you see every month, or you might see someone come in who pulls up in a brand new car or a newer car who lives in a new development area behind whatever, and they're typically seen as a wealthy person in the community come in, but because their shop shut down or because they've been stuck under quarantine, suddenly them trying to pay bills for the lifestyle that they typically live is not possible anymore. So I think the what it's done to employment, what it's done to jobs, especially locally here, has been probably the biggest hit. People just kind of come out of the woodwork needing assistance you never thought would. And it strains those programs that are, churches, different nonprofits. It really strains them too, because while they're suddenly, they have this massive surge of people who need assistance, they don't have the typical amount of donations and money coming in to help those people. So I think that's the biggest way. People, and they did this thing where they were letting people slide on their utility bills. They let people slide on eviction notices. And those suddenly, when you owe $600 a month in rent, now you owe $1,800 because you haven't had to pay it for 3 months with any fear of eviction, or you haven't paid your electric bill since March. And suddenly they're, obviously winter crisis stuff, but a month or two ago, those people are getting hit with 8-month-old electric bills, 8-month-old water bills. And, until this stuff clears out, until they get a better plan on employment, I don't think it's going to get any better. And, in the conversations we had previously, we talked about the stimulus packages and stuff. People could use that. Obviously, some of the people that are in a situation where they need help, sometimes they don't make the right decision with their money, so the stimulus package won't benefit them as much as it probably should, but or in the ways that it should. But in a small community like this, it would be tremendous if all this political crap were to go away and the people were the important part again.
I could completely agree with you on that, Doug. I personally believe that something else does need to change, as well as, our perspective on what's really important. And there are a lot of people out there that could definitely use that sort of help. People with families, I mean, even people without families are struggling right now just to keep the lights on and keep themselves fed. Yeah. So if there was any sort of way how you could, that could help benefit your community other than a stimulus package, what would it be? Like, how would you, if you could take a step forward in the right direction, where would you go?
To me, I think it's all based on people's accessibility to what you have locally. If you have to wear a mask into a store, wear a mask in the store. But if the store isn't open because they can't afford to keep their doors open, or they can't afford to pay their employees, wearing the mask is kind of moot. This town, it's not a large part of our income as far as money coming in, but we have, I can't remember the specific term, but it's like a bed tax. We have a couple hotel areas. We have a couple I don't know what you call it, a resort spa, built mansion here in town, stuff like that. Money comes in for every rental on those rooms. That money isn't coming in. So that lowers things like your general fund, that lowers things like your capital improvements. And to be honest with you, as the chairman of the Parks Board here, We have a community center that runs in the red. There's nothing we could probably do to ever get it out of, but it's something that was valuable to the community. In this instance, COVID has kind of given us I guess, the final bullet to put that thing down. It's just not a viable option. You lose the money that comes in extra to cover those costs. You're not able to put people into the community center because of COVID and social distancing and all this other stuff. And it just, that's another thing is if you got a local government or a small government, like I live in a village, so it's, it's not a large place. It's like 4,500, 5,000 people. When you've got something like that, where you've got something that runs in the red or close to the red all the time, COVID comes in and typically that sinks that ship. So little tiny towns like this, something like COVID takes away programs that are valuable. So now you've got a community center that's no longer there. Kids are out running around. And then you've got sports that are being shut down because of COVID. So kids are out running around. Then you get kids who are getting a little bit more trouble. It messes with their education because they don't have more structure. I mean, even the remote schooling itself, in the long run, the things that this is going to do to the economy or to this country are going to be something we're going to feel for a long time. Kids are, we've taught for generations to give kids structure. They need structure in order to thrive. And then we suddenly give them remote learning with parents who are trying to go to work every day. And there's no one there to structure it. Like my son, I think some days he only has a half hour on his computer, and some days he has 3 or 4 hours on his computer. But unless we're sitting here in front of him, not a lot of structure to it. I know at the end of the school year last year, he struggled a lot. Both of my kids did. My other kid goes to a different school and he's there full time. He goes there every day. But he's had kids that have had to be quarantined, teachers that have had to be quarantined. His sports programs keep getting messed with. And you see what that does with him, the structure not being there. You see what that does to the kids in the neighborhood. And when you're in a small town, you know just about everybody. So you see everyone's struggles are a little more apparent. When you take away school, when you take away sports, when you take away these these things that are ran by the city, like community centers, we had to shut down the Sebring Pool this year. We had to shut down big fireworks events and things like that that are big things for us. When you take away those things because of stuff like COVID, there's a little deterioration in the community for every single one you do. So the community as a whole suffers because most of the time at the lower levels and youth levels, that's where most of they're the ones that get a lot of the stuff clipped. You don't see things that affect the seniors. You don't not typically, other than the fact that they really can't go anywhere, but you don't see the city government itself affecting them. What you do see is you see it affecting the children, whether it's, the parks, the community centers, just the pool, schools, sports, all that stuff just kind of goes to the wayside because of, all this. So obviously, like I said, money coming in, employment, we got to figure that out. We got to figure out what jobs really are, what jobs are not expendable, ones that are necessary. I can't remember the term again, but, and we got to, essential. Sorry. We got to figure out the essential jobs. We got to be serious about it because in small towns, an essential job might be completely different from what it is 2 towns over that's got 35, 50,000 people living in it. It's going to be completely different. So I think that needs to be, it shouldn't necessarily even be a statewide thing. It should almost be localized and in my opinion. And then I think we need to figure out how to not lose these programs that are affecting youth, because 20 years from now, stuff that happened due to COVID is going to affect where we are economically and across the board throughout the country, because we've hurt kids at the lower levels. We've hurt these kids in the small towns, and that's going to be what affects us later in the long run, in my opinion.
Now, you're talking about how schooling and the activities can be affecting the children, but there's one thing that comes to my mind as to add on to what you're talking about is how whenever kids are forced to do remote schooling, but yet you got parents that rely on that schooling so they can go to work.
Yeah.
You got single moms and dads out there that are relying that on the schooling for them to be able to go to work during the day, but now they got to hire babysitters or they're just not able to go to work. I think that also puts a huge cripple on how people are able to fend for themselves and survive.
It definitely does, but when you come down to the stimulus package, the first one that got passed, it wasn't targeted the right way.
No. We
targeted totally the wrong way, because right now we're the only country in the world who's not worrying about the people. Because if you really saw what happened in Congress, a few hours or a few days ago, they passed a $710 billion defense budget with the blink of an eye. But we can't add on a $9.8 billion stimulus package, $300 billion for stimulus checks for people, because how the government sees it right now is this: the little package they're going to pass, let's say they pass the 500 billion or 900 billion, that's going to take you over to 3 to 4 months. And that's when the vaccine comes out. And right then and there, there's no reason to even worry about American people, because now I'm going to tell you, you got to go get a vaccine.
Which has its own issues itself. I mean,
Yeah.
70 million people one way, 77 million the other. Half of that group doesn't want to take the virus or the vaccine, and the other half is, we need it now. I know here in Ohio.
And it's not tested. It's not fully tested, because how do you know that my body is different from your body, different from Savvy body, different from Joe, and different from Scott's? So what happens if I'm allergic to it? What happens? And they have a test that's out. You got to get 2 shots now. The first shot makes you feel miserable, make you feel real sick. Then you're going to tell me I got to go back again and go get it? How many people actually get the flu shot? Not that many. If you're not forced to get it, you're not going to get it.
Let's be honest. Accountability and responsibility isn't a big thing in this country. It just isn't.
Yeah.
The political issues with it alone are going to be the hardest part. Here in Ohio, we're talking about certain employers being able to make it mandatory that you get vaccinated. California's talking about vaccinating just a specific age group, because the elderly and the people with immune issues are the ones who have the comorbidities that typically suffer the most from it. It's the 25 to 35-year-olds that are spreading it. So they're talking about maybe vaccinating them first. There's talk of lottery systems on the back. Like, it's just the scope of it is going to be so insane.
Yeah,
I don't see how it'll work. I just don't.
I don't understand how we claim that America is going to come out wrong, but when you look at the facts, how America is the best country in the world, but we can't even pass a stimulus because we have older people that are congressmen and congresswomen are so stuck in their ways that, well, like Mitch McConnell, well, we only need to pass $500 billion for only this and that. But you have people who are shutting down, people who are losing hours, people who had to work through the pandemic. You have nurses, doctors who haven't seen that much death in their whole career.
Yeah.
You got PTSD, but we're not worried about that because we're like, oh, the vaccine is on its way. But Ohio had 17,000 over.
Yeah, I talked to a fellow today who's in a specific business here locally, and he told me, he says typically he deals with 10, he's on average, it's been about 10 COVID deaths a month. So far, what's it, the 6th, 8th, whatever, December, and he's only at 9. So, it's going much more rapidly. I personally, myself, my wife, we were like, well, yeah, obviously there's more cases, the testing's more.
Yeah.
But on the other end of that, we've come in a little bit more of an idea that the deaths are a lot more too. So, I mean, it's at one point everybody was concerned about all the deaths are maybe not COVID related, or maybe the guy had emphysema for 10 years in COPD and then he got COVID and died. No, go ahead.
Oh, do you think the deaths, because you know how we get normal physicals?
Yeah.
They're basic. Do you think COVID is showing our hidden health issues?
Absolutely. I'm a 400-pound man who's diabetic, who has high blood pressure, has all these issues. I know what I've done to myself, but at the end of the day, I go in and see a doctor. I learn something new every freaking time. That's why I hate going to them.
Mm-hmm.
We eat a terrible diet in this country. If you look at the food, if you look at when we say we sit down and eat a burger and fries and a drink, and you set that down beside what they eat in most European countries as a burger, a fry, and a drink, we're eating 3 times what they,
And they don't have processed food.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for a family of four should be able to eat off of one, maybe two boxes of hamburger helper. But in
Mhm.
reality, most families of four here in the United States eat off of 4 or 6, and then 2.5 to 3 pounds of meat on top of it, which usually junk meat anyway. So you see that you've got to know that when, especially when compared to other countries, like Switzerland, they did this whole thing. Yeah, that's great. They literally live healthier than us. Without
Mhm.
even having, you don't even have to have any scientific backing. You can look at them and see, there's only so many 400-pound people over there. But if you look at America and walk down the street, you're guaranteed to see 3 or 4, maybe in a block.
And not even that, for like you was touching on with Savvy about income, like businesses, your revenue. In other countries, they are at the minimum 65% for businesses giving you insurance. So in case you lose your revenue, you are not going to close. We have
Yeah.
not done that. And if we touch on the PPP bullshit, that it
Yeah.
was only catered to big corporate businesses and a lot of banks, if you went to like large banks, we're not going to say names, they use for only like their star customers.
Yeah.
So you looking at your Joe Smo, no offense, Joe, but you're looking at your small guy. What are they going to do when they don't get approved? And now, since the money is dried up, now they're going around to all the businesses that signed up for it and telling them that I need receipts of everything you used it for. And if you used it incorrectly one time, I want all the money back that you gave to me, in which you didn't say that. That wasn't part of the agreement. And just like with unemployment, now they're picking and choosing who's going to get approved. They're just like, well, we got to do a review before you gave everybody extra money, when you could have easily packaged that. They could have done $200 extra for unemployment. They could have had $1,200 ongoing payment until we would have got till, let's say, July. You had the money, we had the money there, but we chose to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound and say, well, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, and that CARES Act money that comes in for all the local governments and all the different businesses, that's no different than the stimulus money. If you've got a local government or whatever organization that isn't any more responsible than, say, the average guy who is like, oh, look, I got a stimulus package. PS5s aren't that bad looking right now. And it's no different. Like you can see in a lot of the local governments in the area that get that CARES Act money comes in. They're like, well, it'd be nice to put new bushes out in front of the town hall. Not, hey, it'd be nice to pitch that towards this, or that CARES Act money to me should be stuff. Put touchless bathrooms in any of the government facilities. Do things like that. Put windows in to pay bills. Which is some of the stuff that's examples I'm dealing with here personally. But then you've got places out there that are like, it'd be really nice if we upgraded the sign when you come into town. It's like,
I feel it should have been restrictions on it, and
Absolutely.
we have two people in our show tonight who has COVID.
Yeah.
Who Savvy, Joe, can you touch on that? What you've been going through that?
All right. Well, personally, like I said before, I work construction, so I deal with a lot of people, and I can deal with 10 people a day, but each of those they deal with 10 people a day. So there's 100 people right off of the bat, 1,000 people right off of the bat. How many people are in contact with each other? So that just makes it more susceptible for everybody else to get infected. Now, personally, one of my crew members, he just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. And I told my foreman, I was like, yo, dude, I got a headache. And then they were telling me, look, go home, go get tested. So I got tested for a headache, like a 6 out of 10 headache, and I popped positive. Now, what's going on with me now is I'm not allowed to work for 10 days, and I literally live paycheck to paycheck. So I'm completely cut off from the funds that I absolutely need for the bills that I have for myself, and I don't even have a family anymore. Like, it's just me now. So the fact that me living paycheck to paycheck, I'm cut off from the funds that I need. Now, everybody's going to say, well, that's what unemployment's for. Well, whenever unemployment only gives you like 60% of your full-time paycheck, that doesn't help either. And then whenever that first stimulus check happened, I was a welder in a small fab shop at the time. I didn't get a stimulus check.
Yeah.
So, and that $1,200, that could have come to help on so many bills that I had back then. And then on top of that, with this unemployment, the way how it's working, I'm only bringing in like $300 a week on unemployment. So that's a
part-time. That's 300 a week, so that's 600. And you gotta think the price of living, everybody. You can't survive on that. That's bills. That is bills for the month. Not even that, for maybe for a couple of weeks, depending on your thing. We do have breaking news. They did say it just came out from the White House that they are talking about $2,000 checks. But here's the thing with the stimulus, a lot of people don't know. If they do pass the stimulus before December 21st, before they go into recess, you will not get your unemployment, like the benefits. You will overlap. So you will lose money. You will go without a week or two without getting a check because the time gap is already ended. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to mentally get ready for what's going to happen. And it's during Christmas. So you're going to have to pick and choose. Am I going to pay the lecture bill and I'm going to pay the gas bill? Am I going to get the kids or this for Christmas?
Or am I going to eat?
Yeah, that's another implication. Like a lot of people don't realize these people who have been laid off all this time and collecting unemployment, what are they going to, these people that live paycheck to paycheck, what are they going to do when they can't claim any income taxes this year, when they don't get a return or a child tax credit because they haven't had any employment?
Dude,
are we going to get an income tax this year? Is that actually going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay. Joe, where you at, buddy? So,
I'm up here.
You're cut off because of COVID-19 as well. How is your situation affected?
And you got kids.
Yeah.
You got kids. You got a family. So how are you affected right now?
Honestly, if it wouldn't be for, the baby being a baby, so we got like the WIC and the food stamps, we'd be screwed. Because I went down and the baby mom, both of us went down with COVID. We both popped positive. And then she got off work for 2 weeks. Mine was only 10 days. Luckily for her, though, the way her job's set up, she still gets like a unemployment out of them. Like they're gonna pay her to stay home kind of deal. Mine's not doing that for me. So I'm kind of just sitting here. Symptom wise, none of us have showed any symptoms. I had a headache and a fever Saturday, which was gone Sunday when I woke up. And then Monday I woke up with a scratchy throat. I'm assuming it was just because I slept with my mouth open and it was cold, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go get tested just for the heck of it. See what happens. Went, got tested, popped positive. Game over. So other than that, I've felt perfectly fine. I mean, I've been trying to find some way to make some type of cash, but being quarantined, kind of doomed.
All right. So we only got a few more minutes left on this video, but there was one thing I was curious about with Dad. So you and Patricia, you guys are involved with Patricia. She manages an apartment complex. How is your area affected by everything right now?
Being down in Columbus, we're on the highest numbers over anybody. She got bronchitis 2 weeks ago, and they told her to stay home, even though she was COVID free. Yeah, I don't go anywhere. I don't go outside. So, but we're seeing the effects of it. Like this morning, there was a lady who was tested positive, and she had a heart condition, and they could not get her awake. It's just bad down here. Everybody, there's got to be at least 10 people right in front of my apartment who has it. So I go nowhere.
That's insane. So you talking about how that lady, she tested positive and then she got even more of an illness. It made me think about Joseph. Where you at, buddy?
I'm here.
So is your mom and your dad okay? I know they recently popped positive and your mother was hospitalized for it. Is she all right?
Yeah, she's still kind of droggy. Like, she still gets a bad cough every now and then. But yeah, COVID really just made her tired. Like, it kind of just killed every bit of motivation she had. So she slept 24/7, just trying to sleep it away pretty much, sleep her quarantine off. And then one day my sister went in to check on her to make sure everything was good, and she told me that her lips were turning blue. And she was really cold. Her oxygen level, which is supposed to be, I think, like 90 something. I'm not sure with that. Don't hold me accountable for that one. But
Above
her
88.
oxygen level was like 10 numbers under where it's supposed to be. So they had to call an ambulance, come get her. She sat in a hospital she stayed in the hospital for about a week and a half, trying to get her breathing figured out because they ended up giving her pneumonia on top of it.
Jeez.
She just got out of the hospital not even a week ago.
All right. Well,
So
Definitely.
I mean,
glad to hear that they're doing better. But Russell, I'm pretty sure we're down close to closing time, aren't we?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, only thing like viewers, subscribers, and everybody, you gotta be safe. I seen business owners tell me that they don't believe in the virus, that they don't follow social distance, they don't wear masks, they just treat it like a normal day. Everybody, like you. Here's the thing: you don't think anything's going to happen to you until you're in a car accident and your life is turned around.
Yeah.
We're not out here trying to tell you they're going to try to control you or they're trying to do this and that. People are dying. Nurses in hospitals are overflowed. You have nurses, I know tons of them, and they are struggling. They haven't seen this much death. It's like a war zone. We have to be better. And a lot of people like Doug is making hard decisions and shutting down places for people to have outlets. You have to understand it's a bigger picture because he's not trying to bury a kid, an infant, a friend, elder. He's not trying to deal with this. Too many people we lost, but I don't understand how many more people have to die for everybody to take this serious. Because this is not a game. All the countries are following the rules, but we still in America are fighting a battle of wearing a damn mask. And that's it. We can't put the mask on the right way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let us know your stories. Let us comment your stories. Tell us your testimonies, what you really go through. Like, subscribe, and if you want to, like, voice your answer and tell us that how you feel about not wearing a mask, come on the show and actually bring some points. So have a good night, guys.
Yes, sir.